Welcome back to the Single Dad's online podcast, Online Dad, and I am the Online Dad. Well, welcome to March. Spring is in the air, and when you think of spring, you kind of think of new beginnings. You know, the winter gray, the cold, the snow, kind of giving way to color and warmth of the spring as our trees and grass come to life. Flowers are broken through the ground. The snow is just going away. Spring also happens inside our homes. When I was growing up, this was the time of the year that my mom would have my brothers and I washing walls, cleaning windows, the carpet, purging things that no longer fit, need, or we use. We seemingly got ready to open our windows, let the fresh air in, and that brand new season awaiting for some sort of imprint, kind of a refreshing start to the new season. For some, the spring cleaning often includes, maybe painting some walls, rearrange your furniture, go through and straighten and cleaning your garage, just kind of things in the winter you just say, I'll deal with it later. And then spring comes and you're kind of out more and you're in the garage more and you're doing things more, and the time for that change, that fresh look. Did you know that another spring cleaning that we need to do and pay attention to is the one that's in our hearts? How are all of your relationships? Are they strong? Are they thriving? Do they enhance your lives or our lives? This is the time that we take stock in the relationship that we have and clean out what is bothering us inside or hurting us inside. And our most important friendship within our families is our immediate families. Family is the place where you begin life. Family includes our parents, our children, our siblings, our friends. Family today are those people whom we are bound by birth, by law, and by love. So what is spring cleaning in your relationships? So take some time and reflect and assess on each of the relationships in your family. Your family of origin, your family that you've created, your extended family and friends. And ask some questions. Are you estranged from anyone? Are you carrying any grudges? Have you been able to forgive past grievances or issues? Have you asked for someone's forgiveness? Have you forgiven transgressions of others? Were you the one that stopped responding? Maybe you just kind of fell off the grid for whatever reason. And with COVID-19 right now, that's a pretty good reason. People just kind of retreat with inside their home. What prevents you from reaching out to people to reconnect? And what needs to happen before you feel strong enough to rebuild these relationships? Whether you consider your relationship satisfactory or exemplary, the spring cleaning is critical to enriching and strengthening these bonds. And in order to become a better individual, better friend, a better parent, a better sibling, you've got to do this on a regular basis. Spring is a good time to think about it and to rejuvenate that, but it's something that's ongoing. As single dads, the most important relationship you will ever have is with your children. They're in your heart and in your soul. Whether your children are biological, adopted, fostered, they need you. You give them life in the conception sense, but you also give them daily life. They deserve and need your nurturing and guidance to be able to become all that they are created to be. Your children crave your wisdom from life that you have lived and those experiences. They want to hear those childhood stories. They want to hear how you pitched a ball or rode a bicycle or, did something spectacular at your age. I remember my son when he was little, he would ask those things. What did you do when you were little? What shows did you watch? Where did you go when you were young? They want to hear those stories. They need to hear your voice reading to them and helping them with a school project. They need you to attend their games, their plays, their concerts, meetings. They need all of that. Yes, more than just your child support and weekend visits per your divorce decree or custodial responsibilities. It goes beyond that. So what do you do for spring cleaning for 2021? So I've come up with a list of short items that you can do to try and get those relationships reemerging, reestablished, healing and progressing forward, and you don't get stuck or you regress. Because it's very easy just to withdraw back inside and let it go. And any relationship or anything worth doing is hard work. So idea number one, reflect on your childhood. Were your mom and dad all that you needed them to be? And that, whether your parents were together or they weren't, were they there when you needed them to be there? Have you given your kids what you wished that you had been given when you were little? And this goes beyond, buying them that toy, taking them on an expensive vacation they wanted, the latest cell phone or the latest gadgets. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about a dollar amount. This is all emotional and spiritual, all in the context of nurturing. Second idea. Have you ever had a candid conversation with your children about how they feel about your relationship and the relationship between you and your kids? How do they feel about it? What they like, what they don't like? And then you just need to listen to them without being defensive, because depending on the relationship with your children, you might hear some things you might not like. And you want to do it without being defensive, because the one thing you want to do to establish that relationship is that they trust you to tell you anything without judgment or reservation. And that includes some of the negative stuff. And as a parent, we tend to point out the negative stuff in our children, in the idea of accountability and responsibility. But that goes two ways. So it's not like your children are at your level intellectually or emotionally, but in order for them to share with you, you have to share with them, and vice versa. So just as you get unhappy with things that they're doing to you or in your relationship, there are things that you may be doing that they don't like. And some of it might be unrealistic. You got to keep in mind the context of the age of your child and the perspective that they're coming from. But you have to do it without being defensive. Responsible saying like, well, you're only 10 or you're only 8. You don't get it. That's not nurturing the relationship. Just listen without being defensive. Ask them how you can be better for them. Okay? Then share with them, of course, age appropriately, what you need. So that relationship is give and take. The next idea is, if you've not spoken to your children in a while, you need to call or write them or email them now. Always keep in mind that you're the parent and they are the child. And that even goes for adult children. Okay, yes, they're adults. They should call you on a regular basis. They should check in with you. You shouldn't always have to reach out to them. In your brain, logically, that is a correct statement. But when it comes to parent and child relationships, you're always the parent. Whether you're 70 years old and your kids are in their 50s, or you're in your 30s and your kids are in their teens. You are always the parent. You always need to be the one to take charge as the parent. Okay? Rejection is a heartbreaker, but never stop trying, which means if you haven't talked to them in a while and you've reached out to them and they're not responding, it's real easy just to give up because it hurts. Why do I want to do this? Why do I want to put myself through this? But if you want a relationship with your kids, especially if you haven't talked to them in a while, you have to keep trying. Eventually, when the consistency comes in, and I'm not talking about badgering. I'm not talking about you call them every hour, on the hour, every day, every couple hours until they respond to you. If you haven't talked to them in a long time, expect that a response is going to take a long time. You might as well take your children. How do I say this? I'm not saying it right. It very might take your children having children before they may respond, but nevertheless, you have to take the high road. And what I'm saying to you in this statement is, you know what? If it's been a lot of years, it might take your children to have their own children to realize how important that relationship is before they might reach out. And as a parent, we always have to take that high road. So if you haven't talked to them in a number of years and you've tried to reach out and they've just never responded, and you want to give up or you just say, forget it, you keep reaching out. And then it might take that aha moment when your children have become parents themselves to realize that relationship may be very important and take that next step. Not saying they're going to call you and everything's going to be okay in one phone call, but whatever the trigger may be, just be prepared. It may take a long time. But you have to take the high road. You can't use the attitude, well, screw them, I tried and they're not calling, so I'm moving on. They're dead to me. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. They will then remember that you never gave up on them. Now, in the perfect world, if you're always in your kid's relationship and you're always there to support them, no issues. You might have bumps in the road, but you're working on that relationship and constantly working on that relationship. But when you stop calling or stop making communication, for whatever the reason may be, there's no judgment here. Whatever that reason that you stop calling, stop communicating, stop seeing, whatever that reason is, I guarantee you at some point in your life, you're going to regret that choice. Guaranteed. And then you're going to regret everything you missed because you stayed silent. Your kids grow up fast enough. They grow up fast enough. You've got to commit to become active in their daily lives. They will be adults before you know it. My son's 34 now. And I can still remember grade school and high school like they were yesterday. I can still remember the things that I was going through at the time when he was little to try and be the best dad I could be. And I was, scraping the bottom of the barrel and making tons of mistakes. But I can remember those. And our relationship now is stronger than it has been because I was willing to take the risk and the hurt and fall down and get myself back up, and strategies that I thought would work that didn't work or backfired in my face, regroup and start again. But you have to commit to that. And if you haven't talked to them in a long time, I get it. It hurts when they don't call you back. It hurts when they say, screw you, and they hang up the phone. I get it. But you've got to commit to be in their lives. They need you no matter how old you become. And if you are older, or you can remember what your parents went through when their parents or your grandparents had passed away, it's almost like a rite of passage. When your mom or your dad, or in your case, your grandma or grandpa pass away, that part of that childhood disappears with them because you always knew you had your parents to depend on. And now that they're gone, kind of like you become the adult now. And it's the same thing now with your children. As long as you're active in their lives and you're there in their lives, they know they've got somebody to fall back on, to listen, to handle life's problems or help you deal with life's problems, to gather life's problems and look for that advice. When you're out of the picture, they're left to their own strategies to figure it out. And as we all know through television and media and stuff like that, sometimes those solutions are not the best healthy choices you can make. Every child desires and needs to be called by their name and told they are important and loved. And when you don't talk to them for a while or you're not there for a while, you're saying to them, you're not important. Okay, I don't love you. Without question, society has known this and research has proven how critical and essential a father is in the life of a child. A child needs to be cuddled, a child needs to be read to, a child needs help with their homework, taught how to ride a bicycle or throw a football, taught how to put on clothes. And yes, Dad, you know what? You might have to take your daughter shopping and help pick out clothes. You might have to teach them how to do some of those girl things if mom's not around. Get some advice from some women in your life, and maybe there's a woman you trust to kind of guide you through that. They need to know that. They may want you to play dolls with them. And that might not be in your makeup to do that, and I understand that, but you got to do it. And there's tons of YouTube videos out there where those dads just break down those barriers and those boundaries, and they play dress up with them, and they do all that stuff. They need that. They need that reinforcement. They need to be taught strategies on how to deal with life when things hit them in the head. They committed to two things and they can only pick one. They let a homework project go to the last minute and they don't know how to get it done in time. And while it's real easy to say, I'll just fix it, that's not good parenting strategies. You want to build their self-esteem that they can do it themselves, so you guide them along, you facilitate it along. More importantly, every child must know their father, the man. Who are you? What's your favorite food? What's your favorite memory? Who are or were your heroes? What do you need to be happy? You introduce themselves and you build from there. But that whole relationship with your children starts with you. Being honest with them, age appropriately being honest with them, starting with things that might be near and dear to you. And yeah, you know what? You might get a little angry at each other and you might get a little emotional with each other. Many times I remember, my mother making a whole big bowl of popcorn and sitting us down on the floor and starting these conversations. And I can remember you could hear paint dry when she started doing this because we just didn't know. Our trust was broken. We were hurting inside. We didn't know what to do when my parents got divorced. But I can say now as an adult, when I look back, she started sharing with stuff that was going on in her world. And that kind of gave us the indication that we can be trusted. And you know what? You can still share some of those highly emotional things with your children on an age-appropriate level. They may not need to know the details. They may not need to know the circumstances behind it. But what you're trying to teach them is how you felt about certain things, about the divorce, about the loss, about becoming a single parent, all of that stuff, because chances are they're thinking the same thing. So that relationship is important. And with springtime, you can say, I'm going to start rebuilding that relationship. And even if you have a relationship with your kids, do you think it's the best it can be right now? Given the circumstances, given COVID, given shelter in place and remote learning, all of that stuff that has added additional stress to your family dynamic, is it time to start reconnecting on what's most important and to move forward? So that's it for now. Be sure to visit my website, www.singledadsonline.org. And leave a comment or something that has worked for you in the past or maybe struggling with, and we can see if we can try and address them on a podcast or email you directly. I'm also on LinkedIn, YouTube, all the social media platforms. Feel free to reach out. I want you to start enjoying the spring, which will lead to a hopefully warm and enjoyable summer. So, dads, your kids love you unconditionally, no matter what. They love you unconditionally. Never, ever forget that. Even when you're at your lowest moment in the relationship with your children, they love you unconditionally, and they're always out there thinking of you at some point. So it's important to keep nurturing those relationships. It's important for you all to continue to be there for your kids. You're an awesome dad. And being an awesome dad doesn't mean you're a perfect dad. You're going to make mistakes. But to own those mistakes and model a proactive way to handle those mistakes is the way you build your relationship with your children and the way your children become nurturing adults and better parents as well. So have a great day, enjoy the spring weather, and we'll talk to you soon.